Hello. So, 2 weeks ago, I saw Demon Slayer finally. I'm the kind of person who's always late to the party because the more something is popular, the less I want to watch it. I don't do this on purpose, I swear. It's just that when everyone is talking about something, I kind of I prefer to enjoy it later, when the waters have calmed, when no one is talking about it anymore. So this is why when I arrive to a fandom or something, everyone has left already. But at least, man, I enjoy media this way. But anyways, I'm here to talk about Demon Slayer. I really liked the first season. There's only that one, yes. And I've read a couple of chapters from the manga after how season one has concluded. I know there is a movie. A friend of mine saw it recently. I should be watching it too, so I would have a more complete picture. But for now, I will be talking about season one. I don't want to really spoil the story for who wants to see Demon Slayer. I will try to talk about the story in a way that's as spoiler free as possible. So, I would like to talk about what I liked about Demon Slayer. I think for Shonen, it's a very nice series. It does some very nice things if compared to other shonens, especially. For example, I'm 24, so the shonen I used to watch when I was younger, back in my days, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I used to watch Bleach. That was my first shonen ever, also the first manga I've ever read when I was 14. Back then, when I was 14, there was the Bleach boom. Everyone was reading Bleach, everyone was watching Bleach. Personally, when it comes to Bleach, it still has a special place in my heart, but it has many problems. Like, season one is the best, then it's kind of very repetitive, Bleach. I think season one is worth a watch though. But going back to Demon Slayer, I think something that Demon Slayer does right is that it humanizes its characters a lot. Even the demons in Demon Slayer, who are supposed to be evil, exclusively evil, show a very human side. So they delve into their humanity, who they were as a human before becoming a demon, so that you understand them better. You feel really sorry for them, like Tanjiro does. And this is another like big point for me, the fact that how compassionate Tanjiro is towards the demons. There was something of this, for example, in Bleach with the Hollows, which are kind of evil spirits in a way. I'm simplifying it a lot, but even Ichigo had some hesitation in that field. But it's Tanjiro is on a whole other level, so you can tell while watching Demon Slayer that he feels very sorry about killing any of the demons. Since I don't know what comes after in the story, I don't know whether he feels as sorry for the demon who actually hurt his family. I know this is kind of a spoiler, but it happens in the first minutes of the first episode, so I'm not spoiling anything important. This is kind of the premise of Demon Slayer, so I'm not spoiling. So I really love Tanjiro's compassion, which is kind of a more feminine virtue, and I really love it. I love that they are finally allowing anime protagonists in shonen to be more compassionate, to have more feminine attributes too. Like, it's not just strength that's important, physical strength, but it's also moral strength. As a human being, that's it. I also really like Inozuka. I didn't think I would like Inozuka a lot because I'm not a lot into the tropes of the battle obsessed guy. Even though I love Guts from Berserk, but Guts is a whole other thing. I can't really compare to Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is a shonen, and Berserk is a seinen, and it's also one of my favorite stories. So I'm biased, you could say. I don't really want to compare these stories. But Inosuke, I thought he was going to be another Bakugo, you know? And even on Bakugo, I changed my mind because I used to think that I used to kind of hate Bakugo, honestly, because, he's the worst. He becomes better going on in the series, and however, I was very wrong about Inosuke, and I'm really happy I was wrong. Because Inosuke is the way he is because of how he grew up. We could say the same about Bakugo, I think, but I think here it's done in a way that I appreciate more, because Inosuke is kind of a wild child, he doesn't know how society works. He doesn't know how people work. He doesn't really know what kindness is. So every time that someone is kind to him, he he gets all these sparks around him. It's amazing. I love it. I'm really happy that he's finding friends. So I want him to have friends. I want them to be friends. Yeah, when you get invested in fictional characters and you're like, I just want them to be happy, please. Can we please let them be happy? Then when it comes to Zenitsu, for me, the trope of the girl obsessed guy has gotten old now. Like, it's the same way I feel towards Sanji from One Piece, and I really want to make a video about One Piece too, because I saw the first part of One Piece up to the time skip, right before the time skip, and I really like it. And I know that Sanji gets character development in Whole Cake Island, but for now, I talk about what I know. Zenitsu, as in the very same moment he started to simp for Nezuko, I was like, oh no, Sanji, is that you? Are you possessing Zenitsu? But yeah, Zenitsu, so I don't like a lot the aspect of him, but I like that it's a little bit, of course, it's played for laughs. Oh, Zenitsu kind of reminds me of Rock Lee from Naruto, because one kind of the design reminds me a little bit, kind of they have both squared hair, they have something in common, the fact that they mastered something very specific, like a very specific technique, and that's the thing they can do very well, and they are kind of OP in that field, which is it's a trope I kind of like, I must admit. Also, Zenitsu reminds me of how Gammon uses his sword, from the old cartoon of Lupin, and I really like that. It's also kind of I think, a traditional Japanese technique of the sword, kind of a sword technique, very peculiar. It's a technique where you hit things one time, and that's the one time you draw out your sword. Zenitsu kind also fits in the trope of crouching moron, hidden badass, where he has kind of almost this double personality where he's more of a badass and he doesn't really know when he's awake. Well, that's it with Zenitsu, and I still love him, of course, but the fact that he's so obsessed with women, I mean, it's fine, it's funny, but at the same time, it's a thing that I see so many times that I'm like, oh, please, no, not again. So you also have to keep in mind the target audience of Demon Slayer, that is to say, young boys. So even though now it's young boys and women in their 20s, I think. No, also young women, I think. I mean, at this point, media is not as kind of gender, but at the same time, there's still that target audience, Also, I really like Nezuko. Nezuko, unfortunately, doesn't speak a lot. So we don't really know what she's thinking about most of the time. We can guess, of course, but at the same time, when you have a mute character, it can be an endearing trait, and it is. At the same time, when a character doesn't talk, it kind of fades in the background. I'm not saying that Nezuko does. This is just a mental note of mine. This is why, for example, in the Jack series, it's a series of games for PS1 and PS2, I think. I used to have Jack 3, which is still one of my favorite games ever. In Jack 2, they decided to give Jack, who previously was a mute protagonist, kind of like Crash Bandicoot, they decided to give him a voice because that's a lot more appealing. Because you know more about the character, you can give them more depth. So it's a matter of choices. I don't know if Nezuko will speak in the future. She will speak more, but the few times that she speaks, it's very sweet. That's good. Also, I like how they kind of turned her into a powerhouse. She's very strong physically, which is a trait usually given to the male protagonist, and it's nice to switch things. There is that particular episode, here I'm not spoiling you about how battles end or other things like that, but I will delve into a little bit more detail. So if you don't want to hear this, stop the video, it's fine. Basically, what I wanted to say is that I think it's episode 4, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm doing this from memory and without a script, because I just wanted to talk with you about the series. In episode 4, basically, there is a demon who kidnaps girls. Basically, he collects their items. He has kind of a serial killer vibe. Basically, he kills women and he collects trophies of his victims. Tanjiro is always very worried about his sister, so he wants to protect her, rightfully so, because he has lost his family. So Nezuko is all he has left. So he's kind of overprotective. However, Nezuko now is very strong, is even stronger than he is, because she has demon blood in her veins. So she can help him in his battles, and she does help him a lot. She helps him fight this demon who kidnaps girls. I don't want to tell you how the battle ends, of course. I don't want to spoil you. But it's very cool to see, even for Japanese media, who's not very famous for, like, especially shonen, who's not very famous for making not sexualized, powerful women characters, It's very nice to see this kind of character. And also in that particular context, it's used to show that a woman can look after herself. And yeah, it was a nice touch, And it's kind of also sad because kind of in this in Demon Slayer, basically, she and women in general, I think, Nezuko just wants to be treated with respect, of course. I really liked, another thing I liked, also, this is also a little bit spoiler talk, but one of the helpers of the villain, they are the moons, I think. So in Demon Slayer, there are the 12 Kizuki, who are also called the moons, I think, and they are divided into upper ranks and lower ranks. If I remember correctly, one from the lower ranks dies, which is Rui, and he dies. And he had this very particular concept of family, which is very traditional family, the man has to do this, the woman has to do that. This is our family, which is kind of toxic mindset, because every time you try to give a rule about what a family should be, you immediately end up being kind of excluding people who don't fit into your roles. And he was very jealous of the link between Nezuko and Tanjiro, and that's one of my favorite episodes. and I really liked it. Also, I liked the whole theme of links. Of course, this demon had spider powers, and I was like, yes, I'm a literature student. I like this stuff. When I see the themes, man. So I really like this part. This is what I wanted to say about Demon Slayer. So it's a good shonen. It's worth watching, definitely. If I can talk about the style of Demon Slayer, I think it's a very nice style. It has a peculiar line art. In some points, if you are like if you have a keen eye, you will notice that they use 3D, especially when they zoom out and the characters are moving and they are very tiny, or or for peculiar shots they use 3D models. You can spot them because the animation is not as fluid, if of course it's a 3D model, and it's a good move, I think, so that they can kind of spare money to put them in scenes where 2D animation is more necessary. I'm not sure about this, but when I look at the waves Tanjiro's sword generates, they look like a mixture of 2D and 3D, and they also make me think of traditional Japanese artworks, especially The Wave by Hokusai. So it's very cool. That's very cool. In general, I really love the how the powers in this anime have been represented, how they have been translated from the manga. I think this anime in general, it's a very well done anime, and Demon Slayer's success is also greatly linked to this anime. I'm not saying like Demon Slayer is a worthy story, of course. I'm just saying that the anime is a very good adaptation of Demon Slayer. And now I started to read the manga. I had read months and months ago a couple of volumes from Demon Slayer anyway, because I was curious, and this style of the manga instead reminds me of shoujo manga almost instead of shonen, because it's a very light line art, also almost dreamy line art, and so it makes me think of it. It reminds me a lot of shoujo manga, which is characterized by this thin, dreamy line art. Another peculiar thing about Demon Slayer is how that the eyes are drawn. Tanjiro's eyes are particularly geometric, and Zenitsu's eyes are different, and his hair is very geometric. I like when they use particular shapes to make you understand what kind of character you are looking at. When it comes to the clothes, they are kind of traditional Japanese clothes, and I really like that. And I think this is also why Japanese people, I don't want to speak for Japanese people, I'm just saying what I observe. What I see is that Demon Slayer is very successful, of course. So this is the reason why I think it's so successful. Of course, the story itself is very interesting, you know. I'm just saying Demon Slayer is kind of a nostalgic story in a way, because it takes place in a shifting era, an era for which Japanese people may feel nostalgic, kind of a simpler time in some ways. Japanese society is very modern. At the same time, for example, especially in the treatment of women and things like this, it's kind of not the best. If you think that they have like separated wagons, oh my god, they have separated sections in trains for women and men sometimes. So for some things, Japanese society is extremely progressive. It's an incredible society. For other things, such as conformism and things like this, it's very depressing in my opinion. There is a saying in Japan that says the nail that sticks out, it gets hammered down. So it's a very conformist society. I think there is great nostalgia for times when things were simpler, when things weren't changing. And it's normal that we look at media like this, especially in times of crisis or great crisis, and in times of change, because change is necessary, but it's scary. So we look back at the past. It's interesting how these demon slayers act. They are hidden from society. They use katanas in a world that seems a lot more modern than what I thought, because I went into this story thinking that we were kind of in a more ancient era of Japan, of some samurai era. I'm not being very precise about the eras of Japan. I don't want to get into that. But they do mention them in Demon Slayer. I think I don't want to make a fool of myself, so I rather shut up about that. I'm just saying that these Demon Slayers seem like outsiders in this world. They are kind of the heirs of a more ancient Japan in a world that's very modern, that's kind of scary. It's, for example, there is an episode where Tanjiro goes to a city. He sees a city. He lives in the mountains. This boy rarely has seen places as big as this city, so many people in only one place, and I can relate to that because I live in the middle of nowhere. And when I went to a city for the first time, I was like, oh my god, this is so scary, there are so many people. And I can relate to that, so I really like that. And you can tell these people come from kind of a place that's outside of the world, but it's also a very interesting place with all these traditions, very intriguing traditions and references to an era that's no longer here. I also really liked the pillars, the designs of the pillars, how every one of the pillars seems to have a backstory, very interesting backstory. And if I have to call someone Bakugo 2.0, it's not Inosuke as I thought while I was watching this anime, but it's actually the Pillar of the Wind. he has a great Bakugo feeling to him, I must say. But they all seem well done. Like they seem like interesting characters, and I really want to know more about them. These are kind of my ideas about Demon Slayer. My opinions, you know. We can talk about all this. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you will be having a good day or a good evening, a good night. I like to talk about media I like in general, so maybe I will do a video about One Piece next, or I don't know, it's up to you. You can tell me about an anime you like or a manga you like, and I can talk about it. I definitely want to make a video about Berserk one day, because you have to read Berserk. I'm looking at you, please read. I'm joking because Berserk is a great story, but when you go into Berserk, you have to know that's not an easy story. Like, it has very heavy themes, very heavy scenes. So it's up to you. It's kind of like Game of Thrones when it comes about violence and the treatment of the figure of the knight and all these things. So Berserk does not idealize violence or knights and the whole shebang. It's not like kind of doesn't portray knights as like moral symbols. Knights are not moral symbols in this story at all. So now I will shut up. I will say goodbye to you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!